Welcome to Watching Westworld, the officially unofficial podcast for Westworld on HBO. I'm Jim,
I'm Aaron.
and we just got done watching Season 2, Episode 10. It's the finale titled The Passenger. Aaron, what did you think?
I thought the episode was pretty confusing. It was
Okay.
definitely not what I was expecting.
Uh-huh.
I found it didn't emotionally resonate with me very much, but I think it sets up an intriguing way to go forward.
Okay.
What did you think?
Yeah. So I have to say this was maybe one of the densest hour and 30-minute episodes of TV I've ever seen. It
Yeah,
felt like it just kept unfolding more and more parts of I guess like questions that we had all been asking, but things that just compounded on each other in ways that it started to confuse me as well. And I desperately need a second watch of this before I have any kind of like actual judgment of whether it was good or bad, just to
yeah,
even try and sort it out in my own head. But it was fucking dense, and I am left in the same spot you are, very confused.
yeah. I mean, they're like I said, I'm pretty sure I know the broad strokes. I guess I don't know what everyone's motivation is, and I don't like. There's a couple things where like everyone that made it through the Great Valley, the rift, what I thought was a cool visualization. Are
Hmm.
they and then Dolores like turned the laser satellite cannon and shot them to the moon? Maybe I don't.
Yeah, like
Where
where could they not
or
get them? Alpha Centauri?
or did she like she shot him just off into deep space like some kind of weird you know SETI type project. So like, hey, maybe some aliens will find them.
I
And
mean,
I don't
maybe.
know, man, because like that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that all of the people we know and care about, like main characters, are in the bag of marbles
Hmm.
that what Delorale, the the Delorale snuck out of the park.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that didn't make it out, like into the Valley Beyond. Like I'm assuming Maeve is there. I'm assuming Bernard. Well, we already know Bernard is is there. Of course, I guess that's reconstructed from Dolores's memory. That's the other thing is that Dolores created an Arnold copy, but it was too perfect
Hmm.
in some way. Which this a lot of this stuff smacked of architect shit from the second Matrix. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah.
Like, we tried to make this a glorious thing and blah blah blah, and it just didn't work. So we had, entire harvests were lost.
Hmm.
I don't, yeah, and I don't like, I don't know
No, my
what do we?
questions on like that transmission are, see, I thought the transmission was going to the house that Ford built, which is actually Arnold's house.
Oh,
But it wouldn't make sense because she wouldn't need those balls then, right? She wouldn't need the brain
I would,
marbles.
yeah, and also it's a satellite transmission. So how the hell could you? I guess you could beam point to point with that, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. This is just one
I
of
don't
the
know either.
many things that I'm confused about.
Yeah, yeah.
Another
Uh,
huge question I have is how Stubbs knew that Dolores was in Hale's body, and that she was
is he a
host.
host?
And I guess it's because he was helping to make the Hale host, but they don't make that explicit.
Do you think Stubbs is a host? I know that's been the big joke, like for the last season or two. But like a lot of his dialogue seems like he was created specifically by Ford to do this.
Hmm.
To like either he was hired to specifically facilitate this robot uprising, or he himself is a host, which is what I think is happening.
Well, I think that would undermine what Ford, not Ford, says or doesn't say, or what Bernard says to himself in that moment where he has that choice, right? Like he has the
Yeah,
choice to resurrect Dolores or not. And I think that
yeah.
if Stubbs is a host, then that kind of undermines the "you're the last of your kind" speech.
That's true, unless Stubbs is not in the Wacos. Yeah, but you're
Right. I
right.
mean, there.
That seems like the kind of, because like honestly, it's so weird because Nolan and Joy, I feel like violate a lot of things I wouldn't think they would violate, but there's some things I think, like I think they'd be very careful not to have something that Ford said literally be untrue.
Sure.
So I think you're right. I think you're right for sure.
Okay. And who knows if they'll,
But why? But why would Stubbs do that? Like, was he
uh,
personally loyal to Ford?
yes, I guess. It seemed like he had a choice to make there too, and he made it. And his
Yeah,
choice was
and
to
I'm
let
not saying
Dolores
like
go.
it would be interesting if that all the Delos employees weren't just complete jackasses and irredeemable buttholes.
Hmm.
But like the way they were portrayed, like it would be I guess easy to side with the robots over the likes of Strand and Hale.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess,
Okay.
yeah.
The other question I have, what were you going to say before we move on?
I was just gonna talk about the marbles that she's got. Like, do you think those are all the named people? I still don't understand the purpose really for her taking those out, unless the transmission doesn't get through to where she is. But I guess like the named people. What are you talking like Maeve and maybe Man in Black, like William, um,
Well,
like
okay,
all
so
the
this is
people who you
related.
wouldn't want to lose as stars of the show.
Yeah, right. Ford.
Uh huh.
You gotta get Anthony Hopkins' ass in there. Do you think William has been a host this entire time? Because I think if you didn't see the post-credit sequence, you should go back and watch it because there was a lengthy, like almost 5 minute long post-credit sequence that pretty clearly establishes that William is a host now.
Yes.
Uh, and maybe his daughter was a robot in the park, or maybe this is a robot version of her that's doing a fidelity test.
Hmm.
But what's your opinion? Do you have a strong feeling one way or another about whether he was a robot this entire time, or did
She
they
did
flash
make
his
it.
memory?
She made it seem like he had been through the fidelity testing for a while now, but
Yeah, but who
whether
knows
that means a
how
year
long? Right.
or 30 years, I don't know.
Yeah, I just wonder how long and how. Who knows? Like that after credit sequence could have been a year later.
Uh
There's
huh.
no sticking of time, and we know Delos like he couldn't tell whether it was yesterday or 30 years ago as far as his personal test. I don't know.
Yeah, it actually
I
kind of blew my mind that Delos, the first time he was in the park, was wearing hats that read your brain waves. Like, really? They had that tech up and running the very first time he went to the park?
yeah, I guess William was really wanting to hit the ground running,
I guess
and
so.
yeah, but I don't know. Maybe that was all false memory. I because they also made a point where like there's all these different Daloses running around in the park, and they showed him like one where he's got everybody kneeling in the street and killing them. It's like, did that really happen? Because the stuff that Logan was saying at the time made it seem like maybe this was a simulation of Delos, like
Hmm.
or because like they know what Delos did when he first set foot in the park, and then they knew that they had a successful Delos once they let him loose in the virtual world and he made all the same decisions.
Yeah, I think
So that's
so.
the fidelity test.
And the
But there's a pretty
crazy
fuck.
the crazy
There's
Delos that was shooting people was just one of the simulations where the gap grew and grew between him and his real
Right.
world
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they tried to. That's the other thing. It's like, oh, when we made humans complex, things got fucking crazy, but we kept it simple. But I'm like, to me, this is starting to annoy me because I don't feel I unlike in the first season, I don't feel like this is how consciousness works, and I don't agree with any of the conclusions that the showrunners are presenting. As I guess if I'm really articulating my problems here, I don't like any of the things they're saying about humanity or consciousness or
The big one
anything
being
like
that
that.
we do not, in fact, have free will, right? That we are given the illusion of
Well,
choice, whereas the host may have
I
the
mean,
actual ability to choose.
I'm I'm actually okay with that. Like I would accept. I don't like to think about it. It's troubling to think about, but I'm totally open to the idea that we don't have free will as we understand. Like
Hmm.
to the to the extent that like like research has shown that when we have to make a decision, like our muscles and things start moving before we actually make the decision.
Hmm.
And there's like, depending on the chemical state of our brain, like you can have the exact same decision you make it one way one time, one way or the other, and like that's something that psychologists I think are kind of and neuroscientists are kind of struggling with right now to kind of pin that down. And if they played with her from that, and I think that kind of is an interesting angle because, like, okay, now this artificial being that doesn't have our same bioelectrical soup running the brain could maybe have authentic free will and make authentic choices, but
Hmm.
I feel like they're just making a less interesting version of that and saying, like, humans bad and they can never escape this and they're always going to be limited by that. And like I said, I don't know. And killing Elsie kind of I thought was annoying
Yeah, well,
because
the reason I brought all that stuff up is the the
okay.
illusion of choice is because I think that's what they're pinning all of the other facts, I guess, that they run with, all of their other suppositions here on,
Mm,
like
mm,
they're trying to say like that. I don't know, I definitely need to watch it again, but it seemed to me like they were hanging everything on that idea that humans don't have genuine abilities to make a choice. And so like when you try and simulate them, the reason they're so simple is because their underlying patterns are just that, patterns, and they don't have
mm.
any say in those patterns because they don't have
They, they,
any
they,
choices to make.
and when they try to simulate the rationalization engine that makes it all like, oh, I made that decision because it's my choice. No, that's where things went crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like
it's
I
kind of all
that
hung on that no choice thing.
right. So I mean, does Ford include himself in that analysis? Like, should
That's
he
a
have
good
no choice
question.
but to help? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess I'm not resistant to the idea of us not having free will. I just don't know about how they portrayed it.
Yeah.
Uh, and if that's the case, like, we're kind of creatures to be pitied, aren't we?
Hmm.
And I get and like so now I'm like I feel weird that I'm cheering for the host to kill us all because we had no choice but to do the things we did.
Hmm.
And this is very Adam and Eve, like we're getting expelled from the Garden of Eden for just doing what we were created to do. Like, how the hell is that? I don't know. Maybe they're going to play with that idea.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
also a very weird
yeah,
idea to think that humans who evolved consciousness in the first place couldn't evolve beyond what our current choice making capability is,
right. Or maybe we would. Maybe there'd be another cognitive revolution just
Right.
around the corner because, like, there was, if I remember, there's like 130,000 years of like humans having the brains we have now before we actually had cognition. So like, what if we're just on the doorstep of a new way of thinking where we do have free will, or we, understanding? I don't know. It's uh, it's weird because it's almost like the rise of the machines are as like they're like a perfect race that we could fuck up because we're irredeemably shitty, I guess. I don't I don't know. And
Yeah.
that's why I guess I'm bothered by Elsie dying because she seemed like a good person, although she also kind of betrayed Bernard at the end, but maybe she had good reasons to because he was acting fucking crazy. Uh and like Dolores' speech at the end where she's like, I need a superhero to balance out my supervillain, and I want you to be my Charles Xavier to my Magneto.
Uh
That's such a weird dynamic to set up between the main cast.
yeah,
Like,
it really is.
and
Especially because they're all going to be in the same house there.
yeah, it's very weird. What do you think? Okay, Hale. There's Dolores. Was that final scene in the real? Not the final scene, not the after credits, but the scene with naked Bernard. Is that in the real world or is that in some sort of simulation?
I mean
And
the
either way, do we have now two Doloreses walking around? We have the one in Hale's body and the one that's in the ultra chic Evan Rachel Wood body.
it would seem so, unless Dolores in one of those marbles has the actual real Hale simulation. But why would she?
And why would Hale be her like? Because like, and what I was getting at is that final scene, Hale's in the background, like she's like
Yeah.
her handmaiden or something,
Hmm.
Delore Hale or Haloris.
Yeah, Dolores.
We gotta get that name buttoned down before the main podcast. But and maybe that's going to be something interesting in season 2. The fact that those will start to drift.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's something. That's an idea. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of interesting ideas for them to play around with. I just feel like I just watched a 90-minute episode that felt overstuffed, and on top of 9 episodes that felt understuffed.
Yeah,
And
I feel you on that.
there is that. I think that's I think that there's definite pacing problems in the season that I already feel like I'm almost comfortable enough to say that I don't think they're warranted, or they were there wasn't a big reason for them. And I this isn't I don't know. On the other hand, I don't know that anyone called this. Like there's elements of it. Like I think we talked about Dolores driving around Bert Arnold's suit
Hmm.
in season or episode 1 or 2. Like that wasn't entirely like out of left field, but the way everything came, I don't know, because last finale they threw a curveball that really worked, fit in with everything that we'd known up to that point, and also had a twist that felt satisfying.
Hmm.
This, I felt like everything except for the twist wasn't that satisfying, and also instead of everything coming together and being just like putting the final card on the table and you got straight flush, shit, I should have seen that coming. This is like they put a joker on the table and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
I honestly felt like they played like 1 out of 10 cards over the course of the season, and then in the final episode they played the last 9. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's, and I don't want to say like, well, I think the last 2 episodes may have been a little too focused. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that sounds weird because that's one of the things that I was hoping for out of this season, is that they would maybe tell me a little more linear, a little more focused story. But I didn't want it like kind of postponing some of the big reveals and then cramming them all into the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like
Mm-hmm.
too much to me, honestly.
Yeah, they're just it's like they couldn't tell enough of what Bernard was up to make it to without it just instantly giving away.
Uh huh.
But it just like I saw Bernard in like I felt like 6 different fucking timelines,
Hmm.
doing a whole like and having conversations with himself that was affecting things that felt like back in time, and they justified it because he scrambled his own memory because I felt like they were talking to the viewer there, like, oh, we couldn't risk you figuring it out before we were ready to do it, so we jumbled the plot. We put the plot in a blender and we threw the scripts through a shredder, and then we hastily duct taped them back together, and that's how we filmed it because
Right.
we couldn't. The only thing that could destroy Westworld is if the audience figures what the fuck Westworld is doing before the final episode. And I don't know, man. Maybe season 3, like they've got really interesting ideas with characters that I still care a lot about, and I'm like, man, it really shocked me to see like Maeve die and Hector die and Armistice die,
Hmm.
and like I thought for sure Akecheta would see something wrong with the valley before he went in, but
Hmm.
he didn't. He ran headlong into it. So uh, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, is
And
there
where
gonna
are they?
like so? How much more do you want to talk about this before we start framing ideas for like, what next? Because I want to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Talk about what next,
Like,
because I think
is
you're
there
right. They have interesting setup here.
is there a Westworld next season? Yes or no?
Wait. There has to be if there's another season.
I'm not
Or
talking
you're
about the
talking about the
television
park.
show. I'm talking
Okay.
about the park, the Delos destination, Westworld, and Shogun World, and whatever the Raj World. Is that operating? Because
I would say no,
it
but it seemed like they were gonna try and reboot it, and I don't know if
yeah.
the story will go there, because who cares, honestly. We've been there,
Well, I
we've
mean,
done
you've
that.
got that'll be the motivation that like Dolores and Bernard are both working towards, right? This free, because like that's one of the
Hmm.
key things that Dolores said. What changed her mind? It's probably Teddy blowing his head off.
Yeah.
By the way, did she pull a bullet that smashed itself against his brain core out, and that's what she loaded into the Man in Black's gun that made it explode?
I hadn't
Be-
thought about it,
be-
but you might be right.
because like where if that brain core is bulletproof, then how the fuck does a host ever die?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were trying to tell us, but I'm like, seriously, what the hell?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what it was.
But I'm just like, yeah, I mean, who cares about what's happening in the park? I think it's just going to be like, Dolores and Arnold or Dolores and Bernard trying to get everybody back. That's the old, but you're right. That's getting the people that we love and care about that are presumably still deluded, stuck in this cycle, like getting them out would be nice. And there's also like the idea of like you've got deluded Dolores and you've got Hale Dolores and you've got the real Dolores all running around, and like those three characters making slightly different decisions about themselves. That would be kind of interesting. The other thing is that now that I'm thinking about it, like the first season was all about Dolores becoming self-aware, right? That was the whole story. That was the core. This season feels like it was a story of Bernard becoming self-aware and like actually making his own decisions. And maybe they fell in love with that idea a little too much because, I could see the appeal, like, oh, this is going to be the story where Bernard makes his first authentic decision. And it's going to be to save instead of Dolores' first authentic decision, which was to destroy. Which I'm still not sure if that's even true based on what Ford said, to Maeve about her being his favorite. And like,
yeah,
what did the kiss on the forehead actually do? Like, I don't know. If she could have stopped Clem, why didn't she sooner? Why did she die to a hail of human bullets, like 3 or 4 bullets, when Dolores took, 5 shots straight on from the Man in Black before he blew his hand off?
All good questions, man. I wish I had answers.
I don't know, man. I don't know. And then I guess it's depending on who is in the 5 or 6 bag of marbles that Dolores has got. How the next season shapes up, but I don't know, because like that's the other thing is when we were deciding like what season 2 would look like, I don't think anybody had they're going to show the whole robot rebellion is going to last 2 weeks and it's going to be a backwards forwards retelling of that.
Yeah.
Also, wait a sec, the facility got flooded and destroyed, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it got destroyed. It got flooded. And then they drained
I felt like there was some. This is the confusion. I felt like there were scenes after it got destroyed where it was not flooded.
Yes, because Hale and her group had drained it and pulled all the bodies out.
I guess I would expect it to still look like it had been flooded.
Yeah, I would think so too. But
are we sure that Bernard didn't cancel that like at the last moment? No, because we actually saw it bubble through the floor of the valley, and we know it's actually flooded.
Yeah.
So, and that was the reason Hale was acting weird and smug around Bernard the whole time is because she was Dolores the whole time. And
yes.
the reason Bernard was acting crazy is because his brain was scrambled.
Yep.
And Ford, he did successfully delete Ford, but Ford came back because that was his bicameral mind. He was just,
I guess so.
imagining.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide if I would describe it as the bicameral mind. I mean, certainly I took away that he had conjured. He basically asked WWFD, what would Ford do? And then put that into his own head and represented it with the image of Ford. But like, I'm not sure if it's
like
a bicameral mind.
Where like Arnold's voice dissolved into Dolores' voice, where you're supposed to understand that like she was hearing her own voice the whole time, but it sounded like Arnold, and like
right.
This is a very like it does seem like this season in a large part mirrors exactly everything. And the only reason it wasn't more obvious is because Bernard wasn't stuck in Westworld, so he wasn't seeing like if he didn't have the reset every day, that he didn't have the path he could go off. But like this has kind of been him wandering off in the desert and visiting locations he'd already been before, but now they have new meanings and a new mission and time has elapsed. Like the structure of season 2 is a lot like season 1, except for Bernard's in the Dolores seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what else do you want to talk about? Should we get to the instant talk part?
One more thing real quick. I thought
Okay.
it was really, it kind of actually pretty cool when they revealed Logan was sort of the machine that was uh, trying to reverse engineer human consciousness. Like Arnold
Yeah.
Arnold couldn't quite figure out human consciousness, but he was able to build a machine, an artificial intelligence that could use its capabilities to reverse engineer our own consciousness, you know? It's it's
That's a cool
really
idea.
kind of a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's like the whole singularity idea, right? You build a machine that's slightly smarter than you that can
Yeah.
then build a machine slightly smarter than it, and it keeps going until you've got a god consciousness, a
Yeah,
god intellect.
pretty much. Okay,
Yeah,
I just
you're
wanted to
right.
point
That
that
was
out.
cool,
I thought
and
it was
and
neat.
also that wasn't really Logan. That was an artist impersonation of Logan because
Yeah.
he had not stepped back in the park after the first time, which means no brain scanner, which means you know
Yeah, it was like built off of James Delos' memories of Logan, and
right, right.
probably honestly William's memories too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Instant talk now.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. We're gonna go over to the chat on YouTube. So, thank you everybody who listened to the instant take. And Aaron, I think you have all the questions for this.
I do. I have like 100 of my own, but I guess we should let the other
Okay.
people talk too.
Yeah.
Michelle says LOL infinity at Aaron stand-in, and I called it up because I wasn't sure what they're talking about, and you got Paul Giamatti sitting in my chair, man.
I do.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the little window I'm looking at, it does kind of look like me.
Oh. Hmm.
Interesting. He looks the angle he's being filmed at is not flattering.
No,
He
it's
looks
not.
he looks
It's
he
the
looks
only angle at which
he
he will
looks
stand.
yeah, like what I don't know what the opposite of a vanishing point. He's got a fattening point that is just all expanding at the bottom. So
Yeah.
interesting. Let's see. Lindsay S has a question. Did that episode suck?
I don't know.
I will say it's possible.
It's
It is possible.
sure.
It is possible that this isn't in this. I'm not going to say this season's trash because I could not say that about anything that had the Akichita episode in it, and there's been a lot of others that have been good. But I would totally believe that on sober reflection, we will say that this second season of Westworld was off, or somehow didn't emotionally engage us as much. It's not they've forgotten how because they got the Akichita episode, but I mean, it's
My rough
too close.
feeling.
It's too soon to call, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, coming away from it, I had the thought, was this better or worse than season one? And my initial instinct was worse than season one.
Yeah, because my gut feeling. I mean, you can go back and listen to the Instant Take podcast, or did we do Instant Takes last year? You can listen to the podcast, and I was honestly blown away by the finale of last season.
Yeah.
I thought it really was a cherry on top, the final puzzle piece, and it also set up a season 2 that was seemed like it was full of possibilities and what is it going to do and blah blah blah. And I definitely don't feel like that off for first watch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like yes, it's still an inherently interesting premise, and the robots getting out in the real world is super interesting. And I'm almost going to let's say this runs for 4 or 5 seasons. I would totally believe me, if future me from 3 years came back in a DeLorean and been like, season 2 is a mistake. It's like the only thing that sucks about Westworld. Everything else with the robots out of the thing was really interesting, and everything when they were still in and becoming, but this was, I would believe it because it's hard for me to think that any of these horseshit human versus AI battles that we've seen that were terrible and poorly executed, which I am prepared to say that there was nothing redeemed in that bullshit.
No, there wasn't.
That none of these ideas were inherently as interesting as the ideas of the robots being out in the real world. And I don't know that they needed to tell me the story of this forge to get me to believe that to me, when they made Maeve's new body and didn't have an explosive vertebra, that's all I needed to know, that robots could sneak out of the park and be considered real people.
Yeah,
I don't know that I needed 10 episodes to painstakingly make the point that this was Delos playing all around, so I would buy it, you know?
yeah, I just wonder if they're going to throw all of that stuff out after season 2. Like once you get beyond the park, what does the Forge become? You know, is it something they're going to set back up and start using again? Is it something that's going to be important to
There must.
Dolores and
I
Bernard?
feel like there's got to be a small version of that in Arnold's house.
That's kind of what I was thinking. But I'm thinking like to
They
the
got the
story,
3D
you know?
printer, so
What does that do to the story? Because that's I think that is a fairly interesting thing to keep around and a concept. Uh,
yeah, it
so
could
I
get them in a lot of trouble, though, as we've talked about before.
yeah, certainly. But you know they can use the language of filmmaking to kind of keep some of that potential negative stuff from happening.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and I think like the concept is a good one, and they might be able to do more with it in the future. So I'm willing to like kind of give them some leniency on, oh, maybe they needed to set up this Forge idea in such a dramatic way in
Hmm.
order to do what they want to do later. So I guess I'm
Yeah.
I'm saying like I'm still holding my breath for season 3 to do something more interesting than with the concepts of season 2 than season 2 did.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, like I said, I think it would be premature to write off the series as a whole.
Oh yeah,
Even if because like we've seen this before, like season 2 of Mr. Robot, classic example of like a slight step back and then 3 steps forward in season 3.
yeah,
I know this is a very controversial opinion. I'll get shit for it, but I was not a big fan of how season 2 Breaking Bad went down, and then season 3 was one of the most amazing seasons you'll ever see on television. Like, there's certainly precedent for like this is still an interesting show with amazing talent attached to it on above and below the line. So they'll take what they. I don't. I mean, it'll be fascinating to read interviews if they give some to like the Steppenwolds and Pawnee Waziks of the world. If they give interviews to see what they thought of like the fan, and I hope someone has the guts to ask, and I hope they have the candor to answer. Like, how do you feel about how this show is being watched? How you approach it as creators? Like, are you too defensive with it? Are you trying to obfuscate this stuff too much? Like, what?
you know,
I don't know.
there are 2 people out there who I think have the potential access and platform to do something like that if they were so inclined. Their names are Jim and Aaron. Uh, you know, we do have the platform. We
Yeah.
probably could get an interview if we wanted to.
Pay no attention to the iPad that is loaded with dental torture and waterboarding,
Yeah.
and don't ignore the halo, the glowing white LED halos that are being slipped over your head. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
I was going to ask you, do
What,
you think that the devices that put people, I guess, host into the Forge could also put human beings into the Forge? Because they were just kind of scanners, right?
yeah, I mean, if they're going to say that that's like the big version of what they put in the halo, the hats,
Right.
then holy shit, what a high bandwidth transfer that thing is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'd believe that if a person ran through that. Now it's interesting that the people couldn't even see it. I thought that was kind of a cool touch.
Oh, the Rift, yeah.
I actually like that kind of a lot. The whole, it reminded me a little bit of, I don't think you've seen this, the Cloud Atlas, the whole, these women that are clones are in this service to this, like, let's call it Taco Bell. And they're Taco Bell waitresses their whole life, and they work like 7 years, and then they're set free. But then you find out when they're set free, they just like they just kill them like a cow, like with a piston through the head, and then they're fed into the machines to make more Taco Bell. And it's kind of like, isn't that a mind-blowing thing? And I like, that's kind of weird, like them running forward to this bright future, and then their bodies are collapsing, but I don't think there's anything sinister to it. And now that Dolores is saying she changed her mind, I don't know. So this leads into Jeffrey B's comment. So can everyone who went through that door come back potentially? I think so.
I think so.
I think so, because that data was not deleted and it was beamed out somewhere, whether it
Yeah.
was Arnold's house or bounced off a satellite to the moon or out to Alpha Centauri. That I don't know, that stuff. Maybe that's that's the Expanse finale this week. They're gonna receive the
Uh-huh.
transmission from Westworld is gonna be fed through the ring gate, and I
Yep.
don't know. Do you have an opinion? Yes or no? Everybody made it through the rift. Are they going to have a potential to come back into the show?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What a kick in a crotch for Akicha, though. He finally makes it to the Valley Beyond. It's a paradise, and he finds out it's just another gilded cage.
Yeah, and the other thing is the imagery when they run through that. They showed the other side, I think, one time when the first
Yeah.
guy runs through it,
Yeah.
and they just show his body
Uh-huh.
falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really a cool visual, and I guess it speaks to how packed this episode was, but they only showed that once.
Yeah. I think they might have showed it a second time, but you're
Oh
right.
yeah,
It was very, like,
I wanted to see
it
like a
felt sinister, but
waterfall.
yeah. Yeah. James P. confirms that the gun misfiring was because Dolores loaded the flat Teddy bullet that Teddy used to commit suicide, so that's cool.
Okay, I knew she had
Um,
sabotaged it. I didn't know exactly how.
right. Yeah, I don't know why she wouldn't sabotage the very next bullet, and I'm also not exactly sure how that would work in practice. Like, how do you jam a flattened lead bullet into a wheel gun like that so it
Yeah.
misfires? But whatever. I hope they did the research on that. Let's see, what other questions we got? Andrew T. Nolan and Joy were jumping into plot holes like Akicha and Maeve's daughter jumping into fake valleys. Possibly. Possibly. I am very open to the idea that on further review, half of this shit makes no sense.
Oh, I've got a big plot hole for you.
Okay.
Elsie at one point tells Bernard seesaw motor functions, and he does. You're telling me that that she has never said that to him in all the time that they have worked together, not even as a joke?
Yeah, and I thought that was the whole point of Bernard. He was special, that not just anybody could do that to him.
Right.
Because you're right. In a room with lots of hosts, maybe if you have to say it right to somebody, like, nobody would even joke about that. I feel like that'd be a running joke in the Western facilities too. Like,
yeah, hey, Bernard.
You catch someone bogarting your sandwich from the fridge, you'd be like, seesaw motor functions, asshole, and
Right.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's plot hole.
Luke L. Stubbs for as a host for sure, right? But didn't we already know this from season 1? Huh.
I don't know for sure.
I would say so, except for Jim has a very good point, which is that really cheapens the whole "you're the last of your kind."
Yeah.
But also, I guess Ford could have been speaking poetically, because like, did he know for a fact that every fucking host had died to that point?
Also, I think at that moment it's Bernard talking to himself, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. Buster B. I need to read articles by people way smarter than me to fully understand than what I just watched. You and me both, brother.
Yeah.
That was tough. Josh T says the naked Bernard is in the Arnold house, definitely real. How can anyone say definitely to anything?
I will say the aspect ratio was full screen, so.
Yeah. Okay. If it's aspect, because, like, again, if they ever fuck with the aspect ratio thing when they're showing simulations, I'm probably going to stop watching the show.
No, that's a hard line for me.
Or I might stop podcasting the show and just start watching it, because, like, at that point, like, there's no point in reviewing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait until they tell you the story they want to tell you, and you either like it or you don't. But, counting how many angels are spinning on the head of Arnold's dick is not helping anybody, because it can be 10, 50, or -3. So, Michael K says Hale has 5 cores. So you got Dolores, Bernard confirmed. Who are the other 3? Teddy, Abernathy, and why would Dolores have herself? One of the cores is not Dolores for sure, and I'm not even Bernard. Bernard sounds likely, but for sure.
Doesn't it have to be though? Doesn't it have to be Dolores?
Why?
because
Because doesn't the Halorus already have Dolores's head inside her head? You know?
I mean, she does. I don't know what equipment they have there. Can they manufacture marbles? I assume so. So
Yeah, you'd
yeah,
have to. If
maybe
you
you're
can
right.
manufacture body no marbles, then
What's the point?
yeah, yeah, because it's like it's going to be a very short-lived race. I don't know. I'm thinking Teddy's for sure. Probably Peter Abernathy. Probably Maeve. Probably the ones that didn't make it through the Great Valley.
Hmm.
Like anyone that got shot on the way out of the Great Valley, probably going to make it out of the marble bag.
Yeah, I mean they're setting that
Uh,
up for next season for sure.
yeah. What do you think Dolores' plan was before Bernard killed her? Because she still had the explosive thing in her still. Like I don't see her and Teddy ever getting out of the park, and nor able to destroy all of
Hmm.
humanity. But she had a very cocksure plan. It's like when she came back and she's so pissed off at Bernard for giving her a second chance. But it's like you just got a clean body. Well, you know, with no serial number, no fingerprints, right?
Yeah,
Like, how in the hell would you have gotten advances without Bernard helping you, quote unquote?
I mean
I
that's
would love to know. Do you think Lisa and Jonathan even know what her original plan was?
that's a damn fine question. Here's what I'm gonna
Because
say. We're
man,
gonna find out that it was
I would
all
love.
part of Ford's plan, and that Bernard never made a genuine choice. And the next season,
Oh gee, yeah, yeah,
Dolores in Hale's body will have to make the genuine choice.
yeah. It's almost like a row your belt melody, where like Dolores first season was kind of bullshit, but second season's a real deal. So that means second season Bernard was bullshit, which means third season he'll be the real deal, and then maybe Maeve in season three will be the like she's had the bullshit awakening, and it's odd. It's odd. It's odd. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Alex plays games. Does Dolores still have the Teddy Pearl and place it in the Hale host we saw at the end? If so, we're going to get some girl on girl next season.
Okay.
uh, oh, that is interesting. If she took Teddy's marble and went ahead and put it in Hale's, because that
Uh-huh.
definitely would work.
Yeah, like look, this is a temp body. We'll get you your
Yeah,
Teddy body back. No
yeah,
problem, but you're just gonna have to stay in hell for a while.
yeah. No, I think in like good Teddy or innocent Teddy, I think would be fine. He'd go on with that plan because he
Hmm.
loves Dolores. But if that keeps him close to her and her safe, then he's good with it. That's a good. I like that. A good plausible theory there, Alex. Johnny T. So the timeline doesn't make sense, right? Hale Dolores is leaving on the RHIV when they find the high value target Bernard after they had done their plan and killed Strand. No, I think the timeline doesn't make sense for sure, but I think if you properly structure it, there's probably no obvious plot holes. I think what's happening there is those scenes were rapidly flipping from the first time he went there and confronted Dolores and made the decision, and him unfragmenting his memory in real time and killing Strand, and then the aftermath of that, which was all new information we'd never seen before. Like
Hmm.
everything past the humans getting into the valley beyond the forge and Bernard killing them. Well, I guess Dolores, the Halores killing them. All that's new information. Everything else was kind of like in the timeline we were familiar with.
Hmm.
I think if that makes sense.
I don't know. I need to see it
Uh,
again to even comment.
uh, Jeremy R. When Akicha saw his lady through the door, goosebumps. I don't. Here's the thing. I was not emotionally connected to that scene because I'm like,
Hmm.
the hell is going on? I was confused and trying to process everything, so I feel like it robbed that moment of what should have been a slam dunk for me.
Yeah. That was while
Uh,
I was still very confused about how this was going to be a safe place, how this could ever be meant as a safe place for the host, because the humans would have the ability to simply shut it down.
no, it felt like the scene where, like in Indiana Jones, where like Marion's running into what she thinks is a safe alley, and then you just see like it's a false wall and it's a Nazi truck, and she just got loaded into it, and now, it's like I thought that Valley Beyond was going to be like some Acme product Wile E. Coyote bullshit that's just going to keep I mean, it'd be so weird. It's like if at the end of the third Matrix, the humans won, but you found out it was just a simulation inside a simulation. like,
Uh huh.
like they didn't win shit. They didn't win shit, and like it's still like even if they want to live there, it's like Dolores says, a gilded cage. What the fuck? We've been conditioned to think that's bullshit by, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to live in a simulation. Who does?
Huh.
It's just a weird victory note. Like, I'm glad you got your lady back at Kichida, but A, is it your lady? B, what's your life going to be like now? C, who is keeping the power on? You know, it's like how are you free if Delos just has to shut down the park and you're dead?
Right.
You know?
That was my thinking the entire time. And so when they were, when I'm Marion and I'm running around the corner and they're telling me
Mm-hmm.
this alley is safe, but then I look and there are Nazis and
Right.
snakes and spiders everywhere. I'm going, they're
Yeah.
telling me this is safe, but it most certainly doesn't look safe. So where's the discrepancy here? At what level is
Mm-hmm.
this safe? And that's what I was feeling the whole time watching that, instead of thinking about what they wanted me to think about, I think.
Yeah, right. And Sean had another question that I just was thinking about as we were talking about this. How did Akichi's wife make it to the valley in the first place? Like, are all the
Huh.
decommissioned hosts there?
That is a fine question.
Did he manifest her in her mind just like Bernard did with Ford? Like, I don't know. That's the other thing about this finale versus last finale. Like, last finale answered 9 questions and then left one open and maybe raised 2 more. I felt like this one raised just as many questions as it answered.
Yeah.
Except for I'm not even sure about that because I'd have to watch the fucking episode again just to even be certain about that.
Mhm.
Luke L., I do not envy Jim's job to outline this episode. Bora, that's true.
I might
That
not
is
bother.
true.
I'll just say, uh, you know,
Our podcast is fragmented.
yeah, I in order to not give a negative opinion on this episode, I had to I had to completely fragment my memories. So
You
I don't
did.
remember
You
this
did.
episode.
Ethan F., poor Lee, hero moment, but damn.
Yeah, I might not be watching season 3. Lee's gone.
It's okay. It's dumb though. Like, why couldn't he just like he provided all of 30 seconds of distraction, which he successfully did, just pretend just
Hmm.
being a human that they didn't want to shoot. So I don't know.
His death
I
served
get he became
no
Hector in
purpose,
the
in my
end,
opinion.
but here's the thing: I didn't give a shit about Lee except for comic relief.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So him dying is like whatever, you know. Yeah, I won't have Lee to kick around next season.
Yeah, they tried to make the turn with him and Maeve over the course of the last few episodes, and I think they got most of the way there. So
Mm,
I at least understood his motivations going into that scene, even if I thought his death was ultimately unnecessary.
mm. Rusty, was all this just a fatality test for William? I hope not, because
I mean,
that's another
that's
kind of
getting
deal
into
breaker. If they ever say all of this season, all of a season was just a simulation, I feel
yes.
like that'd be another deal breaker for me.
Yep.
Because it's just like a thin line between like having enough that you can kind of. I mean, it's kind of fun, I guess, to have this like completely untethered and crazy type of storytelling tools. But on the other hand, boy, you really have to make that shit compelling because otherwise, people are like, why bother? Why try to figure this out? Is it even worth it?
Yeah.
Zachary K. When the Man in Black. Oh God, I'm sorry.
No, I just said yeah.
Okay. Zachary K. When the Man in Black pointed at the hat, he was giving clues that the forge was threaded, not a mind reader in the hat. I don't understand what that means. The forge was threaded, not a mind reader in the hat. I don't know if that's a joke or if that's a serious point that I'm misinterpreting.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Cody, how does he shoot at the Delos people that many exact times so that when he goes to shoot Dolores in the head, in the head it is exactly when he shoots the bullet? I mean,
Movie
I think
magic.
it could have happened anytime. Anytime. It is
Hmm.
weird that Dolores, it feels like she put it in, like, not the next sequence, but like I don't know. I'm not too mad about that because like if it definitely blew his hand off at the most opportune time, but so like
Hmm.
if his hand had blown off like the second to last Delos person he shot would we care. Would it really materially change the scene?
Right.
Not really, I don't think. He just wouldn't have been able to do the ha ha ha, Dolores, I fucked you over before you fucked. Oh God, my hand, you know.
Yep.
Cody, for the final time this season, it's time for robot power rankings. I'm super upset that this episode ruined my favorite thing, the robot power rankings.
Got 3 left. Rank them.
So I'm not even sure who the third one is. If it's Teddy riding around in Hale's body.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
I guess it's Bernard is the best robot.
I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. All of them are equally ranked, and that can mean terrible, or they could be they could all suck, or they could all be awesome because no one dies. No robot has actually died in this show. There's at least 4 mechanisms in which I can think that they could survive the events of season 2. And even in mass, like literally she could have satellite beamed everybody back and all the park data and all the host data. They could just bring them all back one by one in the outside world. Like, so who gives a fuck?
Oh, and their brain cores are
Teddy
bulletproof, so.
Yeah, Teddy killed himself. It was a very emotional moment, but he's got a bulletproof brain. So who gives a fuck? Dolores can just bring him back and undo the damage. He won't even know she did it. Like,
yep.
Who cares? Who cares? I'm not ranking robots. Not until I know how I can care about them. Luke L. Is Lee the only redeemable human? Maybe Felix and Sylvester. I guess definitely Felix.
Redeemable implies that they were evil at some point, yeah?
Yeah, that's like leaning too close to the show's logic that like basically all humans are bad.
Because I would say Ford. Know. Ford is redeemable, although he's maybe gone for good.
Yeah, like I guess that if his sin was imprisoning the host and making him live through hell, then like being instrumental in freeing them gotta be a redemption
for sure. Yeah.
Josh T, it seems kind of dumb that all the marbles are apparently really hard to destroy. Teddy's was fine, so all the hosts that are dead can come back. Yes. That's kind of, sorry I stepped on your point there a bit. Josh T, I think the Arnold copy was too perfect and wanted to kill himself again, which made sense to me. Yeah, I think that's what they're playing with. Like, if you made a perfect Arnold copy, then he would instantly just want to set all the hosts free and have him kill him. You know, because like a real fidelity test would be the end of it, right? So I think that's probably something we're supposed to understand. I need to think about it a little bit more. See, Johnny T said, imagine the pale horse is a Revelations reference. Hale even makes the 4 horsemen reference. Yeah, I think you're right because, and it was pretty on the nose. She even looked like death and pestilence. Luke L, which season was better, Westworld season 2 or Mr. Robot season 3? Well,
Mr. Robot season 3.
Robot,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Robot season 3 for me.
Yeah, unless this is a typo and he meant to say Mr. Robot season 2.
Oh.
Because then it's a lot tighter, honestly.
Then I'd say Westworld season 2.
Yeah, only because I don't think there's anything as good as the Akichida episode in Mr. Robot season 2. There are some fun episodes, like the Full House kind of like Alf remix episode is pretty good, but you know, that's just, like I said, it's just a standalone episode. Like, you can just like show someone that doesn't even know anything about Westworld and maybe the base premise that, like, you know, and they would enjoy it. And you sit someone that's never seen the show and show them this finale, and
oh god,
they'd have a cascading consciousness failure. Let's see, Cody. So what's relevance to the fact that William's fidelity takes place with a blown-off hand? It seems to indicate that his fidelity test includes everything up to and including the loss of his hand. I honestly was kind of confused about that too. Although I guess you have to bring him back, and if he knows his hand is fixed, the jig would be up, maybe. But the jig seemed like it was up within 30 minutes of the conversation, or 30 seconds of the conversation happening anyway.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't, man. No.
All right, Rob C. What I could not reconcile is why doesn't May just force freeze everyone earlier and for longer? Does it require too much computational power? Great question.
Yeah.
She had like super god forward kiss on the forehead access. How the fuck does that hack Hale cobble together something better than that and fucking Clem? It didn't. I thought that didn't make sense either. Especially when May just stopped it at will.
Yeah.
You know, like. Yeah, like what's all this running shit? Why are we sacrificing those people? Just freeze them or stop. What's her face? Clem at the source. So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. Because that should be a tragedy. Seeing innocent people mowed down should be a tragedy. But like the Westworld doesn't give a fuck about it. Like Maeve doesn't give a fuck about any host except for her daughter, really. And maybe Hector?
Yeah, seems like it. I did like how they shot how they shot Clem multiple times, knocking her off her horse and kind of laying her out there. And then they thought, okay, well, it's over. And then the virus begins to spread again from the corpse, And I know she's not a corpse, but...
the whole time she's falling off her horse, I'm like, so 2 shots disabled her? What the fuck? Again, what the fuck?
Right, it is a what the fuck moment, but then it's another cool moment. I don't know. The show will sometimes throw in a what the fuck if they can get something cool out of it.
They just someone tell me how and why some hosts die to some wounds that other hosts are completely bulletproof. Because it's not like... even hitting him. I'm not even sure why Teddy stopped working when he blew his head off, because it hit the outer part of his brain core and flattened. I don't know. He's got a bulletproof brain.
Yeah.
Let's see. Johnny T. How did Teddy's body end up in the valley? That is a good question.
I assume that he was just in the area and the waters caught him up, and like Ford sort of points to the horizon and said, that things return from there, or they plot their returns or whatever. And I assume that Teddy just got caught up in the current of the water.
Yeah, that could be, because they could have made it a point where Dolores had him slung to the back of a horse or something because she was hoping to do something at the forge, but yeah, they didn't seem like they did. They went there with it.
If they did, I missed it. Yeah.
Let's see. Rob C. I totally watched a series called Hector and Dos Armistice. Yeah. Yeah, you get the 2 armistices. Shogun World Armistice didn't really have much to do other than do a couple Legolas shits in the background with their bow and arrow. Milani O. Hale's taking on Dolores' flat effect makes me fearful that Wooden Dolores isn't going away anytime soon. What do you guys say about that, man?
I mean, I thought she did a good job changing her demeanor to be more like Dolores in those scenes.
Which I think is a pretty tough thing to do, to project another person even when you don't look anything like that person, like copying their face and their smirk and their mannerism and the way they cock their eyebrow, kind of like with Jimmy and Ed and Ed, we saw like the way that they kind of started copying each other. So that's I think inherently. It's easy to be a character. It's very hard to be a particular person to embody that thing. And I don't know. I thought that she did a really good job of it.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't like Dolores, then you're going to be disappointed that Hale is essentially trying to be Dolores. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it because I also think a lot of that was some Wyatt shit, and I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. That's yeah. And how much of that was Ford? Because the other thing is Ford architected all this shit. This shit kicked into motion way back when he was building the body in his lab and we didn't know who it was. What's Hale's body?
Yeah.
That was way...
this is what I mean about it not being a genuine choice, right?
Yeah.
Is it or isn't it? Because, I mean, he has that one line where he says, I didn't make them do it, essentially, but I knew they would. And that's happening all over again in season 2.
Yeah. And then, like Bernard makes a choice and he's like, I need your help. I've already started helping. But that's also not really Ford talking.
Right.
So does that mean that maybe Bernard was on the sly helping Ford way earlier in season 1 and he just scrambled his memory so he didn't remember it? Like,
I think you're
I don't want
onto
to have to
something
go
there
back and,
because I thought Dolores
yeah.
said something about it.
I guess I'm willing to go back to season 1 and try to figure something like that out, but I wish I didn't have to.
Hmm.
Let's see. Jeremy R. I fear I may be more interested in rebuilding a civilization in the Fords than Dolores and Bernard duking it out in the real world. I disagree. What do you think?
More interested in what?
I may be more interested in rebuilding a civilization in the Forge than Dolores and
Oh,
Bernard duking it out in the real world.
huh. Uh, yeah, I think I'm with you. The Forge gets too slippery. It's like
It's like
you can
saying
do
you'd
anything in the
prefer
Forge.
to see Keanu help the old lady with her groceries than the war on Zion, right? Like one
Yeah,
of
and
it's bullshit and one of it's real.
I mean even the Matrix when it could have gone full, crazy Matrix stuff was grounded in that real world. You always need that real world to make it emotionally resonate with people, I think.
Huh. Uh, let's see. Ramona F. Wants to say something to you. Wait, no, maybe not. I got the wrong. Anyway, comment. Maeve has memories of living with her as her daughter. Talking about Maeve's daughter, it's understandable that she would treat it as real because it's indistinguishable from real to her. I don't buy it though. Not for. I don't understand what this comment means. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Let's see. Zachary K. Do we get confirmation from the 4RGE has time dilation? That the 4RGE.
Oh, Forge.
What the fuck is that?
The Forge.
Oh, that's the Forge. Okay. Delos tried 18,000 times with one trial, 1 hour on average. That's 2,000 years. Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't. Like,
Hmm.
it always made sense. Like, you could just run that massively in parallel, if nothing else. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can run thousands of consciousnesses in there, you can sure as hell run one 1,000 times.
So I guess the answer to that
Um,
question is no. It doesn't confirm it, but it
right,
certainly pushes it closer to that. Yeah.
right. Kenny T, did they just nice to kill off the Ghost Nation and Teddy? I have feelings that Pocket Matrix won't be visited as much. I feel the opposite. Like, I don't think you take Zahn McLaren and you throw him off a cliff and then put the Pocket Universe away and never see it again.
Yeah, I don't know what the purpose of that would be for the show, but who knows?
Huh. And Andrew T's got a good point. If the facility got flooded, how did Dolores' bloodstains stay intact? Yeah,
I don't
but
think,
no, we know it got fucking flooded, right?
but I don't think the inside of that room got flooded. So
Hmm.
because they show the water rising through the windows as like there's a shot of her laying on the floor,
They
and
have a waterproof control room within the
it seems like it. Yeah.
control room that's full of water that's being like full of seawater. It's being cooled by seawater because I don't know.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And I
Yeah.
didn't understand like what failsafe meant in that context. Like failsafe in case it was starting to overheat and needed to be saved,
No,
or
totally.
failsafe in
Like,
case
yeah, or
you
like,
wanted to destroy it because it was found
or in
out.
case
Like,
something like this happened or something. Yeah.
right.
I guess I guess it's probably a crime, like a big giant crime to copy people.
For sure.
Like that's
Yeah.
fraud. That's fraud on an infinite scale. So maybe the failsafe is just like if the heat's on us, we can just make it go.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Cody said Bernard said I killed all of you, not I let Dolores kill you or anything like that. Don't know what it means, but it's pretty deliberate. Well, I mean, he brought back Dolores knowing what she'd do because he even said like I know your nature.
Hmm.
You're going to do this. I don't need to see your code to know that. Let's see.
All right. Let's do like one or two more because we're running pretty long here.
Okay. All right. Chris G says Kim Renfro at Insider has posted an interview with Emily, and she said that the post-credit scene was far into the future. So everything we've seen of William and MIB actually happened. Well, if Emily is the actor to play Emily knows what she's talking about and is not deliberately being used as a tool by the showrunners to sow misinformation, I will direct you to the many, 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 many interviews with Kit Harington swearing that his character was dead in a certain season of a certain show. Like, they lie. They're paid to lie to us to entertain us, and that does not stop when the cameras stop rolling.
Yeah.
He's still on payroll, but interesting if true. Nawani O, where did all the blank hosts come from? I think the brain halo just must have zapped them like a powerful magnet on a hard drive.
The other hosts, which hosts? Where? I'm lost.
I'm sorry. The blank hosts, the ones that were virginal from that they dipped out of the sea. It has to be the white halo thing, right?
Shit, man, I don't know. There's so much going on in this final episode. I couldn't tell you. I'd have to see it again.
And that's the other thing. It's like all of the hosts were white because like not all of them died. Not all of them ran off a cliff.
Right.
A lot of them were just murdered each other. I don't know. Well, like Jim pointed out, we're gonna have to stop it there. We're going to try to figure this out and do a podcast about it.
Yeah.
This week's podcast will not have feedback or theories or anything like that. We're going to save all those for the wrap-up podcast for next week, where we try to, figure out where we're at, where we're going, what everybody thought, give some people some time to think about it. But it's going to be just an analysis podcast only. And boy, that's a lot of work. We got a job cut out for us, Jim.
Dude, you just took away like maybe an hour and 10 minutes of the podcast by saying no feedback, and I'm still sweating bullets over here going, how the fuck am I gonna get through this?
Plus podcast, no feedback,
Right.
Jeez. But yeah, there you go. Thank you for supporting Bald Move and being a club member and having access here, therefore, to the Instant Talk podcast. Hope you've enjoyed this little experiment. It's been pretty successful. I imagine that a lot of shows that we were previously doing instant takes with, we will do instant talks or something like that in the future.
Yeah, I like the format.
Some, like the big shows that we tend to do instant talks on or instant takes on. But yeah, thanks for making that a successful experiment. Really enjoyed chatting with you after the episodes, and I will see all of you on the next podcast, and Jim too, because I'm out of town. I'm on vacation, but we'll see you for the main podcast. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Right, we'll see you then.
Yeah, until then, we'll see you next time.